Is Bali overrated? I'm making this video after spending 2 weeks in Bali in Canggu for the first time ever. Having spent years and years and years hearing from people about, oh, it's overrated, or it's overpriced, oh, it's amazing, and just hearing all these polarizing ideas, even back until about 2018, and just finally deciding and having the opportunity to see for myself. I'm also doing this video because one of the top travel creators I've followed for years and years, since 2015, who got me into that wanderlust idea of traveling back when I couldn't travel, he just released a video which I felt kind of nailed it, more or less. I mean, we'll see. There was a big problem with the video. He just did a video on whether Bali was overrated or not, and how it's been changing a lot because it's gotten more expensive and more crowded and all this traffic. And I felt like he nailed a lot of the major ideas, but the one problem, and you'll notice this if you look at the comments, is there's quite a few negative comments. Some are upvoted, not extensively, like I think the highest one I saw was 40 upvotes. So I think he'll be fine. He has a thick skin, and he did respond to a few of those, saying what he had to say. But essentially, the theme of the comments was basically accusing him of not really having much, I guess, appreciation for the local Balinese, because he didn't speak much of that language in the video at all or show any of it. And also, they accused him of being part of the problem. They say, oh, it's social media influencers like you who drove all these people to Bali and made it so overcrowded and all this stuff in the first place. I fortunately think I don't agree, and fortunately I am happy that it wasn't, those comments weren't upvoted to oblivion, like thousands, because I don't think that's fair for him, or it kind of misses the point as well. In my opinion, the major complaints of Bali that he wanted to address in terms of how overrated it is because there's tons of construction and development, and I see it as well, and tons of businesses that have ballooned here, and people complain about the traffic, and I've seen that firsthand, and I don't like traffic either, and how crowded the beaches are, and how much construction's going on, and it's becoming too touristy, and so on and so forth. But that's because it's so great that it caused this influx of demand, to the point now where maybe, yes, it's turning some people off, but I'm still seeing plenty of people who love it here, I've talked to, who say they have decided recently, or maybe a year or two ago, that they were going to live here permanently. And so I don't think it's fair to say, oh, it's all Los LeBlanc's fault or this or that, because I think they simply highlighted something that was great, and it brought a lot of business and money, and made the lives of the people here better by bringing in this productivity and all this revenue and all these jobs for people. And all this development is also helping the tourists here. All the demand for people who want to come visit, for all the other amenities that people rave about in Canggu. And I've experienced a lot of these myself. They were listed in the video, but you can basically order food with your app Gojek and have it delivered to you for very affordable. You can have great food here. There's all sorts of different food. It's affordable. There's really nice gyms, medium tier gyms. There's martial arts classes, there's spas, there's massage places. You name it, you have it here. But I do want to give you the real rub on it, and where it's not that good too, because he did leave out some of the things that I've encountered. For example, yes, I can order food late at night and have it delivered, and it's usually pretty affordable. But just a few hours ago, I wanted to try it out, and I looked at some of the restaurants. I narrowed it down, and then I checked the Google Maps reviews, and recently, like, they all had food poisoning 1-star reviews. So like most of the reviews were like 4 or 5 stars, but like sure enough, like some of the new ones got food poisoning. So that's another thing you got to watch out for here. The food sanitation problem is not as consistent as Western countries. So it's kind of dangerous, and you have to watch out for that. So is it as much of a dream or heaven as you might think? No. I mean, you can do a lot of things here, but the affordability, another thing people complain about, has definitely gone up. Not to the point where it's expensive as the US, but it's just not as cheap as it once was, and that's why people complain. And the prices here are clearly inflated versus everywhere else in Indonesia. Like, it's like you can get a burger here for $3 or $4, like a really good like gourmet burger, maybe $5. Yeah. And it's probably gone up to like $5 now. And it's still much better than the US. An equivalent level burger would probably cost $15, maybe 20. So it's still affordable, but when you're paying $5, $6, knowing that maybe 2 years ago you would have paid $2 for it, and knowing that these prices are very hiked, and that the locals and a lot of the other people could eat much cheaper elsewhere out of Canggu, that probably rubs people the wrong way. Another thing he didn't mention is that a lot of the restaurants here are very westernized. It's almost as if I didn't leave the USA. It's burgers, pizza, fries, chicken fingers, eggs Benedict, omelets, avocados, avocado toast. And so it's almost too westernized or touristy, where it's almost like, really, like, am I really even experiencing the authentic Indonesia? And going back to why I think he nailed some parts of the video, I think his main conclusion was that, yes, if you're just in Canggu, of course, it's going to be super touristy and mechanical. And yet people love to live here because of the co-working spaces and all that stuff. But you're probably not going to see the nature. And so you got to leave Canggu and go to all the other places where there's rice fields, rice paddies, volcanoes, national parks, beaches that are less crowded. And so far, I haven't left Canggu because at the time I was listening to advice from another travel creator, and at the time it just seemed like the best option was to book a long-term stay here, which was an affordable choice. But after over 2 weeks, I've been starting to get the itch to get out of here, because yes, while a lot of people rave or really like how it's affordable, you can get the beach, you can get these incredibly good co-working spaces. I mean, to the level where they're like higher quality than almost every other country in terms of co-working space ability. Air conditioning, nice place to sit, comfy chairs, really well furnished, all that stuff, lightning fast internet. While you have the beach, co-working spaces, restaurants, and food, I mean, I just kind of get sick of going from work to the beach to the gym day after day. I want to see some nature. I want to travel. So I do think that he did nail it in saying that there's plenty of places outside of this one overly touristy place where you get the authentic food and culture and the nature and rice paddies and beaches. And so I'm actually thinking about going out of Canggu and starting to travel to those other places. Even though I've already paid for a long stay here, just because I think that's might be the right move. And he also makes the point, yeah, of course you're going to complain that the prices went up and it's maybe congested with traffic because the infrastructure can't keep up. But that happens because people like it so much that people come in and they, there's so much demand that they start building all this stuff. And now we have to keep up with it, and the prices obviously rise as well as the construction and the traffic. So like, what do you expect? Obviously that happens when the place is so good that they tell other people. For me, I think it's totally fine if people don't like Canggu, Bali. I've met people who hate it and they left. I've met people who love it and they stayed. It's not for everyone, and that's okay. I think maybe a small bit of the problem is because people assume, oh, it's for everyone. No, it's not. And some people just don't feel like it's the right vibe. To me, I see it as kind of like a beach town that has some things that are pretty developed to meet with the tourism here. Predominantly the restaurants and co-working spaces and some of the gyms and beach clubs. But in a lot of other ways, it is still kind of a rural beach town. But there's tons of rapid development and tons of mopeds, especially during rush hour. So for me, I don't necessarily see it as somewhere I would want to settle permanently yet. That may change, that may not. But I do see it as a beautiful rest stop or place to visit. And I'm not alone. There's so many people who live here permanently or see it as this place that I've met who see it as this place where it's their part-time home. Maybe 1 to 3 or 6 months out of the year, this is where they go. And they love the yoga classes, the Pilates classes, and the stuff. So it's really your decision. For Los LeBlanc, he said he's been to over 100 countries, and just the combination of affordability and all this other stuff is just something he hasn't been able to find in any other country. So there's that. I think if you're planning on visiting and so forth, I can give you what to expect about Canggu, but I also encourage you to visit the other places and maybe get immersed with the locals. Maybe learn a bit of their language and show their respect. I personally think some of the comments were a bit too pointed. I don't think, having watched his content for years, I don't, and met him in person briefly once, he doesn't seem like a bad guy. I don't think he's truly inconsiderate, and I think he probably does care for the locals. So I think it's a bit too pointed to just say that he's just this like foreigner who came in to make a lot of money from the country and like not pay respect to any of the locals, as some of the comments said. And so if you are here, I mean, continue the right message. Respect the locals. Talk with them, meet with them, learn about them, maybe learn their language a bit, and show that appreciation. And I'm sure he does some of that too, just behind the scenes. He didn't necessarily show it in the video. It was maybe too focused on foreigners' opinions, which is why it rubs some people in the comments the wrong way. But yeah, it was just very interesting and got me thinking. For me, I think if you're coming here, at least if I were to tell myself and go back in time, I would have recommended, as in that video, explore the other parts of Bali, not just Canggu, because that's where you see the nature and the real Indonesia and all the culture and the nature and the beaches. Ubud, Sidaman, all those other places that were mentioned in the video that I didn't know about. To go to the waterfalls and all those amazing things. And those places, by the way, are outside of Canggu, which means they're going to be much more affordable. They're not going to be overpriced and hyped. Now, if you are going to Canggu because you're considering settling down or trying it out as a nomad, like some of the people I've met, here's some tips for you. Because I literally made friends with a guy who literally came here from San Diego, tried this place out for like a week or two, and decided it wasn't for him, and then decided to go home because there's just a bunch of things he didn't like. So I'm just going to list all the different things to expect, and the complaints that people have mentioned and voiced to me. Some of these may be a bit too pointed, and I'll try and kind of diffuse them a bit later if they're a bit too harsh, and just give you the real rub on it. So one thing my San Diego friend said was, oh, it's too grungy. And what he means by that is, yeah, there's some roads here that are a bit run down, and there's pollution, traffic, plastic bottles there. Part of this comes from the overrun of tourism. I personally didn't find it that bad, but it really just depends on how privileged you are. He's coming from OC and the LA area, which is pretty posh. So for him, it just wasn't for him. No offense to anyone, and he left. For me, I don't mind it that much. It's really not that bad. Two, they say the beaches are overcrowded. There's too many people there. I definitely noticed this. I do feel like if you just walk further west or east, you eventually hit a point where there's much less people. But a lot of people don't bother wanting to walk that far. And then, yeah, the beaches are a bit more brown sand. It's not like this turquoise blue water with a white sand, but they are beaches. They are maybe good enough. And if you want better beaches, like the Los LeBlanc video said, you can go to other parts where the beaches are better and it's less crowded. Another complaint or thing people say is the roads are filled with mopeds and tourists, and the traffic's bad. Well, personally, I've still been able to get anywhere I want to go, even during rush hour, within like 10 minutes, 15 minutes tops. Usually within 5 minutes, but like sometimes it is 15 minutes. And so that's really not bad coming from all the cities I've lived in the US, where sometimes I've had to drive a car 30 minutes each way, and that was pretty normal. It is pretty crowded, and you will see sometimes the mopeds pile up where there's literally like a sea of mopeds in front of you. I've seen that, I've filmed that, I've even posted about that and real footage on my Instagram. Now, at the same time, and I've posted on YouTube too, at the same time, while it does look bad and it is congested and people do complain about it, it really just depends on if that's worth it for you, because in my experience, every awesome city I've been has bad traffic. So it's just part of the game, in my opinion. And it is a bit draining, but once again, like I would just recommend like maybe breaking that up by not just staying in Canggu all the time, but going to other more nature-bound parts of the country, which is where I'm feeling I want to do now. But really up to you. If you really don't like traffic at all, maybe you move somewhere else. That's on you in your decision. What are some of the good things? Well, some of the main things you're going to be doing there is probably surfing, co-working spaces, eating at restaurants, and that's about it. There's a couple other things. You could do paddle a lot. A lot of people like to play paddle here. You could do martial arts classes like I do. There's spas, saunas, and like high-end gyms you can go to. Food, you can find anything from dumplings to cookies to pizza to Indonesian food, but the prices are going to be pretty inflated, like I said. So those are the main things people do here. And then you can go out to bars, and there's a few big party spots at night for, I guess, partying, like, you know, like nightclubs. I say that in air quotes because they're more of like a beach town, like San Diego type of vibe nightlife. So they're like more like restaurants turned into bars and nightclubs at night, but still pretty nice and pretty beachfront and close to the beach. And that's basically it. You know, it's something here where you go partying, you go to yoga classes, you go to co-working spaces and work, And there's a few other things, you know, I like to go to AI workshops. I like to go to my co-working space, host those every week. And then there's a few other like small meetups that you can do here and there. They do like sales training workshops and business workshops. But that's mostly it. You know, you're here mostly to co-work at some really nice co-working spaces, work at a cafe, uh, network and meet with other foreigners. There's a ton of them from mostly European countries. And you can do fitness classes, you can do yoga, you can go to the beach, you can surf. But like, I've walked the beach a few times, and many of those times, at the most crowded point at least, there was like 100 surfers there. Like, it was a bit clogged and messy, but they were still having a blast. They were having fun. So that's kind of what you expect if you choose to go to Canggu, Bali. And some people love it, and they need no convincing to leave it. There's so many nomads there and people who live there, and they love it because they have great food, great restaurants, great activities, and so forth. But it's not as perfect as maybe some hype it up to be, because like I said, food poisoning is something that's you just got to keep watching out for. Like, a lot of people seem to get it and they complain about it, or they leave reviews in these restaurants. So it's like, I'm looking at these reviews, it's like, where do I even go? Like, all of them are like hit or miss. So it's not perfect, but apparently it's an incredible combination. And for maybe not in Canggu, but for in some of those other areas, you can see a beautiful waterfall or a beautiful rice paddy, $1 million view for maybe 20 to 30 bucks a night. And I would say, if maybe you're more like me and you don't have the business or ability to live here full time, then don't stress about it. You know, just try it out. If you are getting sick of it, go somewhere else, like many do, and go there and then experience that. And then if you like it or it really compels you, you know what to do. Stay around, extend your stay, come back often. But yeah, that's really what to expect. I think for me, I was a bit let down, but I've started to come back up because I've met a lot of amazing people here. Some of them are locals, some of them are foreigners who have decided to live here. And they're friendly, they're supportive, they're nice, they're upbeat, and it is one of the most international hubs I've ever been. I've met people from so many countries in Europe, America, Asia, Latin America, you name it. And it's in that way, it's so unique. But is it perfect? No. Can the days get a bit boring too? Yes, because at the end of the day, what more can you do other than work on your laptop, go to a boxing class, go to the beach, eat some good food, and then come back. So in that way, I think time to end the video. Thanks for watching.